Okay, you see the agenda on the screen. I would like to go over the assignment number one first. Then we'll go into discussion board and review our second module and talk a little bit about educational technology in general. And then we'll go into discussion of the blocks in robots, which is our module number three. I opened it up today for everyone in Blackboard. So if you have a chance to look at it, perhaps you have some questions, you'll have a chance to ask these questions, and we will touch upon and review assignment number two, and obviously we'll have another webinar before you will need to submit that assignment, so you could have Q&A session at least 1 week prior to that. Okay, assignment number one. First of all, I would like to compliment everyone on this assignment. All of the groups, submitted solid work that showed solid understanding of UDL principles and application of these principles to different disciplines. It was nice to see. This is overall common for everyone. I was happy to see the way you incorporated technology and created cross-disciplinary lessons, added cross-disciplinary connection to your UDL lessons. The main idea behind this project was introduce you to the UDL principles and guidelines, as well as starting the discussion about personalized and differentiated learning, in which technology plays a crucial role. Let me add this caveat: when you apply it creatively. And we'll have multiple discussion about, what does it mean to apply technology creatively and how to do it and which tools to use, because that's basically what this course is all about. Once we start talking about educational technology, adaptive learning system, blocks to robots, and following with the flipped learning model. So we'll talk about that a lot. But I have a few comments that I would like to share with you about assignment number one. And then I'll turn the microphone to you so you could ask some questions. For the future project, guys, please pull out your APA 6.0 style guide. You will need it for future projects and actually your individual reflections on discussion board. But for assignment 2 and 3, I would like to see citations and references properly formatted. It wasn't the requirement for this assignment, although both Professor Nagler and I would love to see some references. Again, it wasn't the requirement, but we weren't penalizing anyone for not using, for not including references with the lesson plan. But as I said, we would like to see that in assignment 2 and 3, and definitely your reflection on this course, which is the last assignment. Also, a general comment: please check your grammar and punctuation before submitting your assignment for a grade. Next project, and for assignment 3 and the last one, will be much stricter on grammar, punctuation, and again, APA. And the last comment that I would like to make about assignment number 1, please take advantage of our offer and send your assignment to us for a review before submitting them for a grade. My other group, we have 2 groups. The one that I teach by myself. So every single group submitted their assignments for comments and suggestions, and it was very helpful. I'm just sharing this with all of you guys. We are willing and more than happy to provide feedback. So you might as well use this opportunity. But overall, solid job on project number one, and I hope it was fun project to do. Let me turn the microphone to you. I would like to hear some comments and suggestions from you guys, and then I will also pass microphone to Professor Nagler. I would like her to comment, and provide her feedback on assignment number one. Anyone would like to share share some, of your experiences with the group? The microphone is yours, guys. Just raise your hand. We'll pass microphone around. Okay. Doesn't look like anyone who wants to share anything with the group. That's fine too. Professor Nagler, would you like to say a few words about assignment number one? Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Rabinovich. First of all, I enjoyed very much reading your papers, your projects, and it was interesting to see the variety that you presented, including one student who did take advantage of the opportunity and create a really lovely video presentation. And that was perfectly okay because it was completely in keeping with UDL and options for representation. So I say congratulations. That was really a super thing to do. I think for the most part, really what I saw was that people did understand and were able to apply the UDL principles. If there was one principle that perhaps uh, didn't come across as clearly as I would have liked, it would have been those that relate to Guideline 9, um, which are the options for self regulation. So I would just add the comment there that if that was something that you were trying to express, really what that guideline is all about with the checkpoints is emotional intelligence, creating a sense, as it says in the guidelines, of perseverance, of resilience in the students, of being able to regulate your own emotions, etc. So, as I said, there was a little bit of confusion in at least one paper that I saw on that point, but overall, really a lot of interesting transformations took place. And I must say that even some new opportunities for me to see how technologies could be used in the classroom. So thank you all very much. Oh, one last thing. If there were cases where there was a correction in the comments, we corrected what you presented, something was missing, what have you. Um, if you are inclined to uh, fix the paper, by all means, I can regrade it and you can get additional points. So if there was, let's say, you feel like you need to really raise the grade on this paper, there is the opportunity. And that's it for now.
Thank you, Professor Nagler. And what I would like to just add to this, if you're planning to rework your paper and send it back to us, please do it now so we're not accumulating, the pile of ungraded papers toward the end of this class. So it's perfectly fine to rework it now and send it back to us. Please, do it now. I would like to move to our second topic on the agenda, and that is review of the discussion board. Now, uh, it's extremely important in this course and most of the online. Oh yes, thank you. I'm sorry, guys. I just remembered, just came back to me. Uh, Please share your lessons with the rest of the class by posting links to it. A lot of you did Google Docs or PowerPoint. Um, Share it with your classmates. A lot of you did wonderful lessons, and I'm sure your classmates will benefit from learning what you did, and perhaps some of your classmates would like to use it in their classrooms. So, you know, let's share our work and benefit from it. And going back to discussion board, what I wanted to say is extremely important that you collaborate on the discussion board because there are a lot of interesting ideas and experiences that people share on discussion board. And if you apply your knowledge and experience from the classroom to the reading, to the required reading, and sort of provide a unique view, uh, from the perspective of a classroom teacher or administrator, that brings a lot of, value to um, the whole experience of, taking this class. So let me just point out to some of the discussion board posts that I thought were very interesting in terms of their, highlighting uh, the essence of the module number two, which was a discussion about educational technology in general. Let me share my screen. I won't be able to review all of your posts, but I would like to point out to um, some interesting comments. I would like to start with this one. This was about the discussion on the topic of how would you define educational technology? Because it was an interesting question that I found while going over the required reading because this uh, field is hard to define. It's been around for quite a while now, but because of the nature of it, and it's constantly a changing and evolving field, so the definitions changed over time. But it was nice to read the comments and hear your perspective on that. I'll start with Gwen's comment, and I will pass microphone, and I would like to hear from you what you think about that, because she's saying that she quoted a razor by saying that most individuals outside of our profession, as well as many inside of it, when asked to define the term instructional technology, will mention computers, DVDs, mobile devices, and other types of hardware and software typically associated with instructional uh, media or hardware or software. But very few people actually mention a pedagogy. And to me, uh, I believe the Razor's point and his definition, because he provided few. I believe that the main and the crucial point here to remember is that educational technology is the study and ethical practice of facilitating learning and improving performance by creating, using, and managing appropriate technology processes and the resources. I think that's a very good definition of educational technology field. And there is a reason why I'm reviewing this with you because this sets up the stage for everything else we'll be doing in this course. This course is about pedagogy and effective and innovative ways of using technology. Also about systemic approach to using technology and integrating technology and managing it. You will hear word systemic quite often throughout the whole program. And if you eventually join me in the doctoral program, Deb could vouch for that. I talk about it a lot because you really need to have a systemic view of this field in order to implement it effectively. So the next comment I thought was interesting was from Michelle. And what I like about um, Wen's comment and Michelle's comment, they actually added some quotes and went back to the original text, which I would like all of you to do when you post on discussion board. Make sure you provide some references and cites, some sources. It doesn't need to be just, the required reading that I suggested for this course. You can go outside of the required reading and bring some, interesting studies that you found or websites that will support your view. And here, what Michelle was saying. People people have hard time explaining and defining this field. I like Michelle Owen's definition that she, wrote in her post. The study of knowledge of implementing technology to educate or improve education, motivation, and performance. Melissa's comment was also very interesting about this subject. She said that I most agree about this topic. I'm sorry. I most agree with Razor's definition that technology is the means rather than the end product. And that's how I always look at that. I like her comment because for teachers to, another comment that, like Michelle, Marissa's comment that she said that for teachers to become facilitators, they have to be trained in instructional design. Your project number 2, your project number 3 will be a lot about instructional design and designing curriculum to reach diverse student population. So Melissa added an interesting post there. Just she mentioned that she likes the AECT definition of educational technology, and I personally also like how Razor described it, and I agree with this definition. He said that the systemic design of instruction, again, the key word here is systemic, and also design of instruction, and the use of media for instructional purposes. Just the two sets of principles that have formed and still do form the foundation of our field. And I would like you to, remember this definition because we will be going back to it and talk about it when we do second project and the third project as well. So before I go to discussion, discussion about the adaptive learning system, I would like to hear from you guys. What did you think about Razor's article number 1 and number 2? Any comments or suggestions that you would like to share regarding educational technology and how you define the field, how you feel about it? Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I'll just join in because I feel bad nobody's talking, but I appreciate that you pointed out my definition. But I thought the article, when I read it, it just like really hit home when I opened it up and saw that it wasn't just me that was like experiencing this trouble defining, what we do. I mean, people in our field pretty much know, but anyone outside of teaching. It's really a tough explanation, and it's nice to have the right words to explain it. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. And, I appreciate your thorough and, very interesting post. Go ahead, Ednan. You're next, and then Sarah. Go.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can,
Well,
can you speak a little bit louder, though?
all right. Yeah. Well, just to speak to what Melissa cited there about technology being a means to an end, I thought that quote was particularly fascinating. It's like a lot of people, I think they don't, like you said before, they don't take the instruction part of it into consideration, and a lot of people tend to use it mainly for engagement purposes. Which, while it could be engaging, I think that that's kind of a misuse of technology, which is why it's important for people to be educated in the field.
Thank you. It's a great comment. Thank you. Sarah.
Hi, I just wanted to stem off of what Ednan said. A lot of times, even people within their own field find that technology is something they just have to fit into their lesson and don't realize that it can be a means to instruction and a means to teaching the students instead of just engaging them or just using it as a tool to gather data. It can be used beyond that. And I know I've even struggled with people in my field explaining what I do. And most of the time I rely on talking about software and hardware and devices to help define it, but there's much more than that.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. Go ahead, Marisa.
Hi, I just wanted to say that there's also, I guess, a component of staying relevant or up to date involved in the field. I work with some really great teachers, and one just always, I don't know, kind of sticks out in my mind. She has this educational technology degree from Columbia, and she certainly worked hard to attain it, but she hasn't kept up with current technology. So I always think that, what we do is so dependent on keeping up with changes and everything.
Thank you for this comment. And I think it's actually applicable to all fields related to technology and educational technology in particular. I was even laughing. I used to work for the district, and by the time I would finish writing some application for administration or educational purposes, I mean, it would take me 3, 4, 5 months. By the time I would finish it, guess what? The new version would come up, and I would have to, right after releasing the first one, go back and rewrite it and make sure I adapt it to the new release, and so on and so forth. And it happens with practically every piece of software. It happens with even instructional software that we use. Not just software, but instructional resources. Everything has to be constantly updated. And you're absolutely right. You have to be on top of it. You have to update your skills. You need to read a lot. You need to know what's new and innovative coming, and how can you adapt and adjust your instruction to it. And you know what? It's very hard. Some people just, after a while, get burned, and they just can't keep up with it. So I'm glad you brought this point. Now that you're in the field of educational technology, please be aware that it's a lifelong learning. You will have to stay up to date all the time. I would like to go to adaptive technologies because there were some interesting discussions there. Not that they surprised me because I heard those concerns before. I personally believe that a lot of them will be coming into the school systems and actually college and university level because the competency-based learning and the personalized learning and differentiated learning that we've been talking about so much heavily depends on technology, and those adaptive learning systems. Now, not all, but many students raised concern. Justin was one of those who said, yes, but at what price? price we pay for use of differentiation through the use of adaptive learning systems take us to the area where there is a lot of communication with peers and teachers. And you think about that because I want to hear your opinion about that. This is very interesting topic. He's saying that the correct way of implementing adaptive learning system is supplementally, perhaps using flipped classroom or supplemental reading like a program Read 180. I think that personalization and differentiation for adaptive learning technology goes far beyond that, and it's about data-driven decision and adapting learning content and goals to students' ability. But it's an interesting topic to discuss, and I think you probably have few thoughts on your own. Felicia, for example, let me go to her comment, said that she just echoed Justin's concerns. She said when students are focused on computer, they lose social skills that she herself personally enforced in the classroom. And guys, give me just a second. I'll let you comment on that because this is very important topic and something that we are discussing here in this class. And when you're going to talk about systemic approach and the way you see technology in the next 10, 15 years, you will need to reflect on that. Sharon brought a few interesting points too. She, said that some benefits of adaptive learning that teachers can change instructions based on student knowledge, which is that's why we use adaptive learning systems, and that's actually the most appropriate way to use it. Teachers can spend time with students who need additional help or even small group settings, and students are more tech savvy. It can be more engaged. They work at their own pace. Adaptive learning monitors student learning. So again, teacher can give them one-on-one attention that is needed. Professor Nagler, I'm passing the microphone to you. Go ahead, review blocks to robots and our next assignment, and perhaps we'll have another round of Q&A session before we close this webinar. Wrap it up. Go ahead, you're next.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We do hope that you are going to enjoy this next assignment because it is a highly creative one. It is going to be based on Burr's book, Blocks to Robots, and it's constructivist and it's constructionist. So you will have the opportunity to explore both of those things. And I don't want to entirely spoil the surprise because I hope that it will be a process of discovery for you. But I will start with just a quote from Seymour Papert, who is the father of constructionism. And he said that the role of the teacher is to create the conditions for invention rather than to provide ready-made knowledge. Well, this is very much in keeping with a lot of what we've been discussing this evening in terms of educational technology and why and how we would bring it into the class, creating a student-centered classroom and what that looks like from a cognitive and experiential perspective. So you are going to be creating a proposal for a curriculum that is based on a specific technology. Now you can use a technology that you're familiar with, and we hope that you will take this as an opportunity to explore and to stretch in your understanding of educational technology. You're going to begin this project with a proof of concept. This means that hands-on, you are going to play around with this technology and show us what can be done with it in the context of a learning setting, and create a model that could be applied in a classroom or in a school, etc. The second piece of this is you are going to be giving us a description of powerful ideas that are represented by this technology. And this is not really represented, but or inherent or in the technology, that it could be a catalyst for students to be thinking about these ideas. And Burrs gives you a very specific definition of what powerful ideas are, that these are ideas that are culturally based, that there's a personal connection, a domain connection, an epistemological connection, and a historical connection. So, and she gives you a few examples of how that might be so. One, I mean, I'll throw out there what I did when I did this project in terms of the powerful ideas. I was working with 3D printing, and my personal approach was um, President Barack Obama said that, you know, we should become a nation of makers. And so the whole idea of maker education and maker movement and DIY and empowering people becomes a cultural phenomena, historical place marker, etc., that could be generated by giving students an experience with 3D printing. That's kind of a summary of what the powerful ideas piece might be. And then the fun part, you're going to give us 4 to 6 possible projects with your technology that you could incorporate into a curriculum. So how would this play out over the course of, let's say, a semester or a year in practical application? And finally, and this is the systemic piece that Dr. Rabinovich was speaking about earlier, you are going to give us the practical and organizational considerations and solutions. What are the problems that might be inherent in this? For example, again, in my paper, I talked about 3D printing and, well, you know, would it be affordable? Would there be logistical or technical problems that the students might incur? How much time does it take to do the printing? How would you get around these problems? And what impact would they have? Would it have on using the technology in a school or a setting? So those are the key things that you're going to be addressing. Something to remember, we're not looking for lesson plans. We're not looking for you to go into deep detail for each of these little projects, but summaries, kind of an explanation of each. And as I said, we want you to show us that you tried it yourselves and show us sort of your model for how this could be applied. It is a collaborative project. Once again, you'll go into the wiki and sign up to work with groups. Any questions? Okay, go ahead, Faith.
Hi, I was wondering if when we are grouped with other people, if it's possible to be grouped by, for example, I'm a school librarian, to be grouped by, you know, our jobs or our interests or, you know, curricular focus.
Here's what I would say about that. is you all have access to the message board just as we do, right? So you could send out a note and say who else in this class is in is a librarian and would like to join in my group. Go ahead and ask. And see, these are you're self-selecting, Faith. So see if there are others who are similarly inclined and would gather with you. Now, the only limitation is, uh, you know, if you're having a group, we're looking to have a group of more than 3 or 4 people, or to have at least 4 people, I guess we have 3 to 4 people in a group in order to have a little bit of critical mass. But go ahead and see if you can work that out. Mark?
Hi, I just had a question about if we chose a technology that maybe isn't readily available but will be soon. It's something that's like being shown at like CES or trade shows, and if we wanted to create a curriculum based on something that's coming in like the next year or so, like for example, like 3D printing, I have in my school. A lot of districts have it, but I was thinking of a technology that's kind of like emerging. It's on its way because if my group did work with that kind of technology, that last portion of the assignment showing that we tried it ourselves would be a little bit more challenging.
Well, I will say this. The other piece is that whatever you're going to use, if it's not on the list, you have to get our permission to use it. So you would have to make the case offline, so to speak, to Dr. Rabinovich and myself. Let us know what it is, and then we would, we tell you if it's a go, whether or not that's realistic. It's good to be forward thinking, but it's also reasonable to sort of be practical and work with something that you can wrap your hands around in one way or another. So we'd have to talk it out. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Just to add to what Professor Nagler was saying, I actually, Mark, would like to see something innovative. As far as first of all, if you could create a project that everyone could participate in your group with, that's number one. Number two, if you can present a solid and robust case toward this technology and how you see it, revolutionizing your classroom or perhaps education in general. Maybe there is something we don't know that you saw in the trade shows or the conferences. You understand what I'm saying? It's actually this class would be a good venue to share something like that. But Professor Nagler is absolutely right. It's nice to, you will have to come up with an idea that is doable. So if it's doable and it's forward thinking and you can present a strong case for its implementation, I would say go for it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And now, for the faith comment, yes, obviously you can work with people from, that have the same background as yours, but I think it's sort of little bit defeats of the purpose of the group project because I think you learn most when you're collaborating with people that have different experiences and different views and can share something with you that you otherwise would not learn. That's my experience. I don't know. And I heard that from many students that I taught before that they learn most from people that were, in different fields.
Shirley, what did you want to ask us?
It's not a question. I just wanted to state that I'm having a hard time reaching my group. I sent a message out, so whoever's in maybe group 5, if you can check your messages so we can talk about this project. Thank you.
You can send email messages to your group as well. So both through the wiki and also through the email messages. I hope that you all will be responsive and supportive. Well, this is it for now. In about another 2 weeks, I think, right, Dr. Rabinovich? or so, we will have another session to go over this project. In the meanwhile, please don't hesitate to send us any questions that you may have, and in the interim. And also remember, as Dr. Rabinovich said, you can submit your project in advance, even if it's not in a completely finalized form, to get feedback, and we're more than happy to help you in that way.
And just to add to what Professor Nagler said, please keep posting on discussion board. First, it's going to help you to sort of shape up what you want to do for the project. Two, you need to post on a regular basis. It's 20% of your course grade. I look for comments that reflect on required reading. Please add some citation and references. Also, discussion board is not timed in terms of you don't need to post by Friday night. This post can be done on Saturdays, Sundays, or even next week. The main goal is to, first of all, as you read, to reflect, and do not leave it to the very last minute when at the very end you will have to deal with a lot of discussion board posts to contribute to, because that might lead to, missing a lot of those discussion boards and losing a lot of, points for participation. That would be all from me. And if Professor Nagler has nothing to add to this, I would like to thank you all for joining us tonight. I'd like to say, again, it was nice to see a lot of people joining us, and I hope in a couple weeks to see you back when we're going to discuss assignment number 2, and look forward toward the other projects that we'll do in this course. So good night, everyone, and thank you.
Good night.